We have received more than 200 questions from either you, our viewers, or a large amount of them, and have to do, Glenn, with Proctor, Trooper Proctor.
Yeah, one question that a lot of you had has to do with his phone and why jurors and all of us heard those text messages in the first place. Roberta wants to know, why did Proctor have to share his cell phone contents? Is it because it was a work phone? Right now, we can't say for certain, Roberta, but we do know federal investigators are investigating the handling of the Karen Read case. That's being led by the U.S. Attorney's Office for Massachusetts. Federal prosecutors haven't specifically said why they're investigating. Trooper Proctor also faces an internal investigation within the state police. Police have only said they're investigating Proctor for a potential violation of department policy. But sources have told NBC 10 investigators that the investigation is connected to the Read case.
That internal investigation came to light earlier this year, just days after Karen Read's lawyers alleged that Proctor never fully disclosed his personal relationship with multiple people involved in the case. We're talking about members of the Albert family. The defense cited text messages from Proctor in those claims. And joining us right now in studio is criminal defense attorney Peter Ellikin and, of course, our courtroom insider, Sue O'Connell.
All right, Peter, let's start with you. Michael Coyne sat in that chair last night, and after listening to the Proctor testimony, he said this witness was fatal to the government's case. Do you agree?
I hate to sound over-dramatic, but I can't overstate how damaging that was to the prosecution. And certainly the case isn't over yet. I've seen cases turn on a dime. But here's the problem, that if the jury is sitting there and listening and they have no faith in the integrity or character or the accuracy of the lead investigator, then they start to question the whole case. And that's really the damage that is being done. And particularly, it's not just him. The idea that these text messages were not only going to his friends and relatives all over the country, but also to his supervisors and the other police. And why didn't the Canton police step in and tell him to stop or do something there to intervene? And so it kind of puts a bad light even on the entire Canton Police Department, whether that's fair or unfair.
Well, and state troopers specifically, and it is difficult because one bad apple can ruin the whole pot. This is one bad apple in this case in terms of what he read out loud in court. But Sue, I'm going to hand it over to you, because when it comes to the state police, which is a very large amount of people, this isn't the first controversy we've had recently with them.
Right, and this is where I say some of my closest friends are state police officers, right? Requirement there. We've had a number of scandals over just the past decade. Recently, we had the commercial driver's license test scandal where they were giving a golden ticket to people who didn't even take the test in order to get a commercial driver's truck license. We had the Troopergate scandal. You probably forget this one, 2017. 2 troopers say they were pressured to remove embarrassing details about the arrest of a judge's daughter. Then we had the overtime fraud scandal where 50 state troopers were implicated in being in 2 places at the same time, basically stealing money from the taxpayers. We have the embezzlement and kickbacks from the former president of the state union, who was sentenced to prison for that. And then this one you might have forgotten about. The NBC News investigators broke this, the bear crawl backlash, where they had in 2022 recruits performing bear crawls on hot pavement at the Massachusetts State Police Academy. 20 trainees ended up being treated for medical issues due to that. And of course, they keep reporting they have a hard time getting people to work for them, which is, of course, not just the state police. And then the last decade, we had the crime, the drug...
You're not done yet.
Not done yet.
There's a second page there.
Yeah, the drug lab scandal, which, of course, was devastating. So, again, to your point, JC, it's a large organization policing the entire state. Lots of great people work on the state police. But the problem is, when something like this happens and there are supervisors involved, it's really damaging to the entire organization.
And Sue, what you're talking about on a large scale, I think speaks to what you were saying, Peter, on a smaller scale. Even if Trooper Proctor did good police work, it almost doesn't matter because his conduct in this specific situation was so unethical, it kind of paints everything with a bad brush.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why they're going to be kind of evaluating this entire case. He's saying this now, and we find this to be inaccurate, let's say, or showing a lack of integrity and character. So what they're looking at the other bits of evidence, too. And it's not just the things that he said about making fun of her multiple sclerosis or being, looking for nude photos or whatever. But he also, in these texts, he actually mentions this shoddy police work, that here we have a body found outside of a house where he was expected to go the night before. And he shows up there and he said, when somebody says to him, gee, this is going to make people in the house look bad, he goes, no, it's a Boston police officer. Therefore, he didn't even do, normally you would think body outside of a house. Wouldn't I at least look into the house? Maybe you wouldn't find anything, but isn't that part of a search? He didn't even do the complete job. And so we hear those things. It's not just what he says, but it's also this shoddy police work that seems so biased at the beginning.
Sue, this is too big for 30 seconds that we have left, but where does the governor come in with all of this when you just listed off quite a few things?
So the state police are part of the Office of Public Safety and Security, which is part of the administration of every governor, not just Governor Moore Healey, but every governor. Some critics might say the challenge here is that every governor has been protected by the state police. There's a state police driver for every governor. Their families are protected by the state police, and some people have for many years been saying there's an inherent conflict there that, they might be too close to a governor. We haven't heard from Governor Healey yet on this, I believe. Obviously, the trial is ongoing. There's more Proctor testimony coming tomorrow. So I imagine, though, we are going to hear from her. She is a former attorney general and a lawyer, so I imagine we will hear something from her. They are looking for a new boss. That's still ongoing, a new colonel. For years, they used to only be able to hire from within the state troopers, the mass state troopers, to lead them. As we've learned with the MBTA, sometimes it's good to go outside to find someone in. So we'll see what happens.
Okay. Sue O'Connell, Peter Ellikin, as always, thank you.